So you'll never really hear me talking about babies when I'm talking about the pro-life position. It's just not what I do. Saving human life, intrinsic dignity. I'll use the term fetus and embryo because they don't bother me. I mean, I've talked about this before on the show, and I've written about it quite a bit. Embryo is a state. It's a growth stage. It's a stage of development that a life passes through. It's not a thing. There are not embryos. There's embryonic humans, right? It's not a thing that exists in and of itself. It is a stage of development that other things pass through. And a fetal stage is the same thing. A fetus isn't a thing. There's a fetal human being. So that kind of language doesn't bother me. So I would not probably, when I first heard, the whole reason I don't is exactly what you saw over the past week or two since this decision became public. The hysterical fighting over the term children. Now, here's where we go back to the idea where I said, read the decision, man. Read the decision. Instead of getting crazy about it, anytime you get into a discussion with somebody and you're arguing about important things, one of the first things that you need to do, one of the most fundamentally important things that you can do is to clarify definitions, right? In any given, I was in a debate one time at a college campus and we were talking about a term, and I defined the term. They thought they had a case as far as in the debate that was a knockdown argument. And I found out what they were doing. And so this is going to be the easiest thing in the world. So when the debate started, I gave a very clear definition for the way that I was using the term in my argument, and it invalidated their whole argument. I said, so if you want to argue whether or not that's a legitimate definition, let's go ahead and do that. That's what we should be arguing. But you don't freak out about a term when we haven't defined it yet. So in Alabama has determined under their law that embryos are children, and people are freaking out because they're thinking of children like children are my children running around my house. They're the ones that are tearing things up or yelling or screaming, whatever they're doing, wild things that children are doing, playing on playgrounds, screaming, crying, laughing, demanding things, loving, hugging, all of these things that we associate with young children, that sort of uncontrolled chaos of childhood. And that's what they think of when they think of children. And so when you say an embryo is a child, like, no. That's a child right there. That's not, an embryo is not one of those things. Well, that's your definition of child. But you have to understand what they're saying under the law when they say an embryo is a child.